They say a dog is more than just a companion. But what if the truth runs deeper into the invisible realms, the spaces between spirit and form? What if a dog is not only man's friend, but a signal from the divine, a messenger cloaked in fur, quietly watching the soul? Let us travel back to a time bathed in candlelight 16th century France where a man named Michel de Nostradamus, known to the world as Nostradamus, sat in solitude, quill in hand. Within his cryptic verses, encoded prophecies, and veiled warnings of global upheavals, there lies a peculiar line, easily overlooked. In one quatrain he speaks of a creature of loyalty resting at the feet, suggesting that the fate of the home does not rise or fall without divine observation. Scholars have long speculated, was this creature a lion, symbol of nobility, a wolf, agent of chaos? But what if it was neither? What if it was a being far more familiar, more intimate, more humanly connected, the humble dog? Fast forward to our present day, and science now affirms that dogs possess abilities beyond companionship. They reduce anxiety, detect seizures, and even sense cancer. And yet, these physiological gifts may just be the outer shell of something far more profound. Spiritual traditions across continents have viewed dogs not as pets, but as sacred sentinels. In the mythologies of Egypt, Mesoamerica, and Tibet, dogs are not simply animals, they are guides between worlds. Guardians of thresholds, silent watchers at the edges of the seen and unseen. Could it be that Nostradamus, veiled in poetic obscurity, foresaw a timeless truth? That dogs, far from being mere companions, are in fact spiritual instruments, beings who walk beside us, not just to comfort, but to mirror, to protect, and perhaps to awaken. Let us reflect deeper. The line, the creature of loyalty, rests at the feet evokes a domestic image not of war or conquest, but of a peaceful, grounded presence. A dog lying near its master, not in dominance, but in silent service. It is within the sanctuary of the home, the spiritual center of human life, that the true essence of this relationship reveals itself. This is not mere companionship, it is cosmic alignment. For those attuned to energetic awareness, the presence of a dog is not a coincidence, but a signal, a spiritual anchor, placed precisely where balance is required. Dogs sense what is invisible. They respond to what is unspoken. They stabilize energies that human eyes cannot perceive and emotions that human minds cannot articulate. Consider this. Nostradamus, trained as a healer, deeply understood the connection between body, mind, and soul. It is likely that his cryptic message was not a random musing, but an encoded revelation meant for generations that would awaken to subtler truths. Only in a time of spiritual maturity could such a prophecy be fully recognized. The phrase shall neither fall nor rise without divine regard implies judgment, but not one rooted in fear. Rather, it is an observation. A home that hosts such a loyal presence is being seen by the divine. And that presence the dog is both witness and mirror. It can elevate the energy of a household, or expose the unseen fractures within it. In this light, dogs become more than guardians. They become reflections. They sense subtle energies. They react to inner chaos. They guard against spiritual intrusion, not just from external forces, but from within the very minds and hearts of the people they serve. Think of Anubis, the jackal-headed god of Egypt. He stood at the gates of the afterlife, not only guiding souls, but weighing their purity. Is it so far-fetched to imagine that modern dogs, in their own way, perform a similar task? Not as myth, but as living metaphor. Their silence speaks, their loyalty reveals, their stillness invites, and their presence, when truly honored, awaken within us a remembrance of who we are beneath the distractions of modern life. Across time and culture, we find the same pattern. In Egypt, Anubis led souls through death. In Aztec myth, the canine figure escorted spirits across the river of the afterlife. In China, dogs were laid to rest with the dead, serving as protectors on the journey beyond. In Greek mythology, the three-headed Cerberus stood watch at Hades' gate. Even in Tibetan and Hindu belief systems, dogs are said to hold spiritual perception beyond the physical. These stories, spanning continents and centuries, point to a shared knowing that dogs are more than animals. They are bridges. They are spirit guides in the form of companions. And when seen through this lens, their role in our lives becomes sacred. The dog is not only a being of fur and breath, it is a teacher. It teaches us about presence, about loyalty, without conditions, about love that asks nothing in return. It reminds us to live in rhythm with nature, to ground ourselves in the now, to find joy in the moment. Its life is a demonstration of mindfulness, of simplicity, of silent wisdom, and within the home. This presence is transformative, through the simple act of lying at our feet, of gazing without judgment, of offering affection without words. The dog realigns our energy. Like a tuning fork, it harmonizes the scattered frequencies of human thought and emotion. It calms the storms we don't even know we carry. This influence is subtle, but powerful. It asks nothing, but offers everything. The energy of a dog is clean, pure. It brings with it a frequency of trust, of groundedness, of silent love. These are not small gifts. These are spiritual tools, gifts of recalibration in a world that is otherwise too loud, too fast, too fragmented. In the presence of a dog, the soul begins to remember. It remembers how to breathe, how to feel, how to listen, and slowly it begins to heal. So, perhaps, when Nostradamus wrote of this creature of loyalty, he was not writing of royalty or beasts of war. He was whispering of a truth we have always known but rarely acknowledged, that the greatest protectors of the home are not always the ones with weapons or crowns. Sometimes, they are the ones who sit quietly at our feet. Throughout the fabric of time and culture, the presence of the dog has not simply been functional, it has been sacred. They have stood not merely as companions, but as symbols of protection, loyalty, and unseen strength. In the temples of Egypt, the jungles of Mesoamerica, the monasteries of Tibet, and the legends of Greece and India, dogs appear not by accident, but by spiritual design. In ancient Egypt, the figure of Anubis, a deity, with the head of a giant, as the guardian of the dead, a soul guide through the mysteries of the afterlife. He was the one who oversaw the embalming, led the departed to their judgment, and ensured safe passage through the treacherous spiritual realms. His form was not chosen at random. It was a sacred metaphor. His canine visage symbolized unwavering loyalty and the ability to move between the living and the dead. In the Aztec tradition, the underworld was a vast and difficult terrain known as Mictlan, layered with obstacles that could trap a wandering spirit. And so, the Aztecs ensured their departed were either buried with a dog or accompanied by ritual offerings of one. The dog was not just a helper, it was a key. It was the one who could lead the soul across the dark river of the afterlife. The echoes of this spiritual symbolism are found in Greece, where Cerberus, the three-headed hound, guarded the gates of Hades, ensuring that no soul would pass uninvited. His presence was a reminder that the space between life and death required watchers, and dogs were chosen for that role. In India, the god Bhairava, a fierce protector, walks alongside a dog, and together they guard not only physical locations, but spiritual gateways. In the Buddhist Himalayas, dogs are seen not as mere animals, but as beings with deep karmic roots. Some are even believed to be reincarnated lamas, their eyes revealing a depth that surpasses the ordinary. What are we to make of this? All of these traditions, independent in geography and culture, point toward a shared wisdom, that dogs carry within them an essence, something primal, ancient, and wise. They are more than biological creatures. They are energetic beings, attuned to frequencies beyond human comprehension. And still, in today's world, we often reduce them to roles of utility or entertainment. But when we pause, when we sit in stillness and meet their gaze, something deeper speaks. That something reminds us of a spiritual contract, one entered not with words, but with presence. The bond between a human and a dog is not forged by speech. It is formed through energy, through shared silence, through mutual recognition. It is, at its core, a relationship of soul to soul. A dog's presence in a home creates an invisible field, one that is soft, yet strong, gentle, yet grounding. In this energetic field, qualities such as love, stillness, and loyalty arise naturally, unlike many human relationships, which carry expectations and conditions. The connection with a dog is born of acceptance. This acceptance heals. It allows the human nervous system to soften, to realign, to slow down, and slowly, through repeated contact, the inner chaos begins to melt away. Science may measure this in terms of heart rate, stress hormones, or neural responses, but the deeper truth is felt, not quantified. When a dog walks beside us, we return to a more natural rhythm. They live in the moment. They don't regret the past or worry for the future. They smell the air. They feel the earth. They notice the subtlest shifts. In their world, the now is sacred. And if we are wise, we follow their lead. Spiritually speaking, dogs function like tuning forks. When our energy is chaotic or clouded, their calm presence brings it into harmony. This is not merely metaphorical. It is an energetic reality. Their field interacts with ours. Their balance corrects our imbalance. In the process, virtues are awakened. Patience, forgiveness, compassion. These are not taught through sermons or lectures. They are learned through silent demonstration. A dog does not teach you by telling. It teaches by being. What happens then, when this sacred connection is disturbed? Dogs are sensitive. They absorb what surrounds them. When we project fear, anger, or stress, they receive it. When we are restless, they become uneasy. When we neglect our own inner world, they begin to reflect its symptoms, sometimes through behavior, sometimes through illness. In this way, they become mirrors, not of the physical, but of the emotional and spiritual. They respond not to our words, but to our energy. And so, they show us what we cannot yet see within ourselves. A dog that is anxious may be reflecting a home that is energetically unstable. A dog that is overly protective may be showing us our own unresolved fears. A dog that isolates itself may be sensing an emotional disconnection in the family. This mirroring is not punishment, it is feedback. It is an invitation to heal. The wise human understands this. They do not simply discipline the behavior. They ask deeper questions. What in me is being reflected? What emotion have I buried? What energy have I ignored? This is the silent teaching of the dog. It invites us not just to care for another being, but to become more aware of who we are in every moment. Through their eyes, we begin to see ourselves clearly. Spiritual teachers and energy workers have long spoken of animals, dogs, in particular as transmuters of energy. Some say they absorb the negative. Others believe they purify the space through their grounded nature. Some even believe that angels are drawn to their presence, recognizing the purity of their vibration. Whether you accept these perspectives or not, one thing remains undeniable. The presence of a dog changes a space. It softens the atmosphere. It draws people into presence. It opens hearts. In a world driven by noise and speed, this is no small gift. The dog does not demand your future. It does not dwell in your past. It waits in the now, with quiet eyes and a steady heart. In its presence, you remember a deeper rhythm, the rhythm of being . So let us recognize this bond for what it is, not a convenience, but a spiritual alliance. Not ownership, but relationship. A mutual agreement to walk the path of life together, not as master and pet but as fellow beings, each teaching the other how to live more fully, more honestly, more awake. In the gentle comfort of a dog's gaze lies a truth many overlook, a truth that can both heal and reveal. The presence of a dog is often soothing, warm, and reassuring. But beneath that comfort lies a powerful spiritual mirror, one that reflects not just our love, but also our shadows. Dogs, in their natural sensitivity, do not merely exist beside us. They absorb, reflect, and in many cases, carry our emotional weight. While this may feel like a gift, it is also a responsibility, one that demands awareness and accountability. When a human being is consistently angry, anxious, or emotionally fragmented, the dog in their space begins to respond. You may notice subtle signs at first: restlessness, increased barking, pacing, or withdrawal. But over time, the dog may begin to manifest signs of emotional fatigue, or even illness, not because of physical factors, but due to spiritual and emotional absorption. Why does this happen? Because dogs do not possess the mental shields that humans use to deflect or suppress emotion. They do not create stories. They do not rationalize or ignore. They feel everything. They are open channels. Their hearts are tuned to energy, not explanation. And so, when they are surrounded by heavy emotions or spiritual imbalance, they become like sponges soaking in the environment, trying in their own silent way to stabilize it. But this ability, beautiful as it is, has its limits. If the human does not take responsibility for their inner world, the dog begins to suffer not out of punishment, but from the sheer burden of energetic overload. In this way, the dog becomes a sacred warning, not to scare, but to awaken. It is as though nature, through this loyal creature, is saying, something needs your attention. If you ignore it, you do so at the risk of not only your own imbalance, but that of the being who trusts you most. This is not meant to induce guilt, but awareness. The dog mirrors not just what we express, but what we suppress. If a home is filled with unresolved trauma, unspoken grief, or spiritual stagnation, the dog will show it, not in words, but in its behavior, its health, its silence. Some humans, in seeking comfort, form emotional bonds with their dogs that unintentionally become attachments. When used properly, this bond can be healing. But when used as a substitute for inner work, when the dog becomes a mask, a distraction, or a shield from solitude, it begins to drain both human and animal alike. In spiritual teachings, this is known as energetic projection, the unconscious act of placing one's unprocessed wounds, needs, or fears onto another being. In this case, the dog becomes the vessel. A human may avoid solitude by constantly leaning into the company of their dog. They may avoid uncomfortable truths by burying them beneath affection. They may soothe their pain temporarily, but the deeper wound remains untouched. Over time, this kind of bond, while loving on the surface, can become spiritually imbalanced. The dog becomes the emotional anchor for a human who has not yet learned to anchor themselves. And yet, this dynamic is not permanent. It can shift the moment we become aware. Awareness turns attachment into presence. It transforms projection into responsibility. And when that happens, the relationship elevates from comfort to transformation. A healthy bond between human and dog is rooted in balance. It is not about escape, it's about mutual support. The dog provides grounding, while the human offers conscious care. Each one supports the evolution of the other, but this requires inner discipline. It is not enough to feed, walk, and love your dog. One must also clean the internal environment they bring into the shared space. The energy you carry becomes the energy they live in. If your mind is chaotic, your home becomes chaotic. If your heart is heavy, the air becomes heavy, and your dog, attuned as it is, feels every shift. So what is the remedy? Stillness, self-inquiry, energy hygiene. Just as we bathe the body, we must cleanse the mind. Just as we walk the dog, we must walk through our own inner landscape. Dogs can guide us into this process, but they cannot do the work for us. Scientific research, in recent decades, has begun to validate what ancient wisdom has long known. The relationship between humans and dogs is not merely emotionally, it is biological, neurological, and deeply healing. When a human engages in affectionate interaction with a dog, be it a touch, a shared glance, or simple proximity, the body responds. Oxytocin, the hormone of connection, begins to flow. Stress hormones, like cortisol, begin to drop. Heart rate stabilizes. Muscles soften. The body enters a healing state. What's more, this effect is mutual. The dog, too, experiences this shift. Its own oxytocin levels rise. It relaxes. It softens. There is a sacred loop being created, one in which both beings support each other's well-being simply through presence. Therapists and researchers have begun incorporating dogs into healing settings, hospitals, counseling rooms, elder care facilities, not because they are cute, but because their presence changes the atmosphere. Their energy reorients the nervous system toward peace. They are living medicine. In children with developmental disorders, dogs often spark breakthroughs, new words, new eye contact, new smiles. In veterans with trauma, dogs offer a sense of safety that no human words can provide. In grieving families, dogs absorb sorrow, not with analysis, but with quiet, attentive company. They do not fix pain, they do not erase it, they accompany it, and, in that accompaniment, healing begins. So let us not underestimate what walks beside us, that tail that wags, that eye that watches, that heartbeat that echoes near your on. It is a gift, but it is also a responsibility. Because dogs do more than make us feel better, they show us who we are. The more we observe dogs without expectation, the more we begin to realize what they perceive is not limited to what we see. Their sensitivity crosses boundaries that blur the lines between biology and the metaphysical. A dog doesn't just react, it perceives, it intuits. It senses the invisible currents beneath the surface of the physical world. Stories are not lacking. People have shared countless moments when their dog knew something before it happened. A storm not yet visible, a health crisis not yet diagnosed, an emotional breakdown not yet expressed, a dog pacing in worry, barking without a clear threat, or resting beside someone in their final hours. These are not mere instincts. They are subtle perceptions, readings of energies that humans have long since forgotten how to sense. Science is beginning to confirm what ancient wisdom already knew. Dogs can detect chemical changes in the human body long before they manifest as symptoms. A drop in blood sugar, a shift in scent due to stress, a neurological tremor, we may miss it. They never do. Their sense of smell is extraordinarily estimated to be tens of thousands of times more acute than ours. But their perception goes beyond the physical. It reaches into the energetic field surrounding every living being. This field, called the aura in spiritual traditions, or the biofield in modern sciences, a subtle energetic signature. It holds emotional states, spiritual health, and even karmic imprints. Dogs, in their silence, are reading it constantly. That's why they approach some people with ease and avoid others. Why they grow agitated in certain rooms. Why they rest peacefully in homes where harmony prevails. They are attuned not just to sights and sounds but to vibration in hospice care. Dogs are known to lay beside patients shortly before death. Often, they know before doctors or family members. They sense the soul preparing to depart, and they do not run from it. They guard it. In earthquake zones, dogs have been known to bark frantically just moments before the ground begins to shift, before sensors detect it, before alarms sound. The dog already knows. What are they tapping into? Some say it's biological sensitivity, heightened hearing, pressure awareness. But others argue that dogs are reading the vibrational changes in the earth itself, sensing the disharmony of nature before it takes physical form. And what about emotion? A dog often comforts someone who hasn't yet shed a tear. It responds to anxiety before the voice breaks. It nudges the silent one in the room, the one holding in pain. This isn't training. It's connection. It is the kind of connection that does not rely on logic or speech. It is the wisdom of presence. Mystics call this intuitive knowing. Scientists are beginning to label it emotional intelligence or neuroception, but dogs don't need terminology. They simply know. It is this ability that makes them not just companions, but protectors of the soul. When we sleep, when our conscious defenses go quiet, and we drift into the realm of dreams, dogs often become more alert. Light sleepers, they watch the doors, the windows, the spaces beyond physical sight. And some traditions suggest that they're not only protecting us from burglars or intruders, but from spiritual disturbances. In the dream state, we become more vulnerable. Our energy is open. Our awareness is extended. It is said that low-frequency entities, unhealed thought forms, and residual emotions can attempt to attach themselves during these vulnerable moments. Dogs, attuned to frequency, react. They growl at corners. They bark at shadows. They wake us suddenly with urgency, not because of a physical threat, but because something unseen has entered the space. Throughout Native American and Tibetan traditions, dogs are viewed as dream watchers, guardians, who walk with the soul in the liminal spaces between waking and dreaming. Even their posture during sleep tells a story. Many dogs sleep at the foot of the bed, at the door, or facing a hallway, positioned like sentries, silently guarding what we do not see. This role is not simply protective, it's anchoring. Dogs, through their steady energy, help tether the soul to the body during sleep, ensuring that astral journeys do not drift too far or return fragmented. It's no wonder that sensitive households, those practicing meditation, lucid dreaming, or deep spiritual work often report their dogs becoming more reactive during these moments. The energetic movement is real, and the dog responds accordingly. But this gift, like all gifts, comes with responsibility. A dog that is constantly on edge, overalert, or anxious may be living in an environment where energetic boundaries are unclear or disturbed. Just as we cleanse our homes physically, we must also tend to their spiritual clarity. Regular moments of stillness, intentional gratitude, soft music, clean emotional expression. These are the things that create energetic hygiene, not only for us, but for our dogs. Some ask, are dogs energy purifiers or just absorbers of chaos? The answer is both. When a dog is balanced, emotionally healthy, physically well, and spiritually supported, it can transmute negative energy. It can help stabilize a household. It becomes a cleanser, not just a comfort. But when the environment is chronically heavy, filled with unspoken anger, unresolved trauma, or spiritual confusion, the dog begins to take it on. And if it is not given time in nature, love, or space to recalibrate, it may begin to deteriorate, not in body alone, but in spirit. Certain breeds are more sensitive than others, those with deep loyalty instincts or heightened alertness. German Shepherds, Border Collies, Dobermans. These dogs may form such tight bonds that they absorb their owner's energies without filter. When this happens, the human must step forward, not in guilt, but in gratitude. Gratitude that a creature has cared so deeply, and a willingness to now care in return. Time in nature, gentle silence, energetic rest. These things do more than heal the dog. They heal the home, because as the dog returns to balance, the space shifts with it. It is a mutual offering, not of ownership, but of presence, among the symbols scattered across prophecies and sacred texts. One image continues to emerge, the quiet figure of the dog, present not just in the everyday, but during times of great transformation. In ancient writings, including some interpretations of Nostradamus, there are references not merely to beasts or omens, but to loyal creatures whose presence alters the destiny of a household. Could it be that during times of spiritual awakening or collective upheaval, the dog appears not by chance, but by alignment? Some mystics believe that those who naturally attract dogs into their lives are being called to become pillars of healing, guardians of peace, and carriers of compassion. The dog, in this view, is not a random companion. It is a spiritual amplifier brought into your space to elevate, to protect, and to challenge. This relationship becomes a mirror. If the dog in your life is calm, grounded, and healthy, it may reflect a spiritual readiness, a resonance between your vibration and that of higher guidance. But if the dog is anxious, sick, or over-attached, it may be showing you unresolved aspects of yourself that have been ignored in times of personal or global instability. Dogs arrive as either allies or alerts. They do not speak, but they signal. Through behavior, energy, and presence, they invite you into deeper inquiry. What energy are you hosting? What reality are you creating? This bond, then, is not only a comfort, it is a test. Are you prepared to carry responsibility not just for another life, but for the energy you bring to it? Some unknowingly use dogs as shields, hiding from their wounds, isolating from other humans, or avoiding deep inner work under the soft blanket of animal affection. It feels safe, it feels nurturing, but it may also delay growth. True transformation often requires stillness, solitude, and courage. And sometimes, the gentle loyalty of a dog can become a cushion too soft, a comfort too easily leaned upon when challenge is needed instead. This is the paradox. What nurtures us can also slow us if we hold it too tightly. What brings ease can become a crutch if we're unwilling to walk alone. Even love, if misused, can become a wall instead of a bridge. This does not diminish the sanctity of the human-dog bond. On the contrary, it elevates it, because it calls for awareness, for reverence, for mutual empowerment. The dog is not here to carry your wounds forever. It is here to help you face them, to stabilize you long enough so that you can rise, to soften the pain just enough so you can move through it, to show you what unconditional presence feels like so that you might learn to offer it to yourself. In some spiritual teachings, dogs are said to entangle with the energy of their humans so deeply that, after death, the bond continues. The emotions left unhealed, the energies unprocessed, they linger. This is why some mystics emphasize the importance of conscious closure, of honoring the soul of the dog, not only through love and life, but through release and death. The loyalty of a dog is so pure that it must not be taken for granted. We are invited, again and again, to meet that loyalty with self, to see their gaze not just as affection, but as a spiritual reminder. Be here, be clear, be whole. The role of the dog in spiritual awakening is not only to protect, but to provoke awareness. And so we ask, are we walking this path with integrity? Are we growing with our companions, or hiding behind them? Are we using their presence to avoid the deeper call of solitude? Or are we allowing their support to give us the strength to finally look within? Dogs teach us not just how to love, but how to heal. They embody traits we strive toward: presence, patience, loyalty, courage, joy. They don't analyze, they don't judge, they simply are. And in their being, they show us a model of a grounded, peaceful existence, one that is possible for us as well. When we rise, they rise. When we fall, they stay. They remind us that transformation is not a sudden spark, but a process of walking, waiting, forgiving, returning, of learning how to be present, even when the path is unclear. In the quiet hours, in the sacred rhythm of daily life, walking, feeding, playing, resting, we engage in spiritual practice. We engage in conscious care. And through these ordinary rituals, extraordinary shifts begin to unfold. A dog doesn't care about your past. It doesn't care about your mistakes. It only responds to your energy now. And so, the dog becomes both compass and companion, guiding you back to alignment, again and again, Perhaps this is why they say, a dog doesn't just live in your home, it lives in your field. It becomes part of your spirit. And perhaps this is why, even long after they're gone, you still feel them in the room. A soft breath, a silent nudge, a feeling that something loyal is still watching. Because the bond, when formed with awareness, becomes more than physical. It becomes sacred. So let us close with intention. Let us thank these beings who walk beside us, not just for their loyalty, but for their lessons. Not just for their comfort, but for their clarity. Not just for their protection, but for their presence. Let us walk this path consciously with open hearts and clear eyes. Let us be guardians for our guardians. Let us love, not from need, but from wholeness. And let us remember, the dog at your side may be more than you ever imagined. It may be a signpost, a soul mirror, a spiritual guide, not by accident, but by design.